Today on Pots and Trowels I'm planting tender vegetables out and thinning some of the root crops, and that's brought to you with the support of Allett and Cobra Garden. Hello, welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, beautiful weather, summer's here, isn't it? And we're out in the vegetable garden where everything is now growing really well. We've got moisture in the soil below, although it looks dry on the top, there is moisture. So on the back main garden, the potatoes, the onions, all the root crops are just springing to life and putting on lots of growth. This little bit of garden here at the front is a real sun trap, so I'm going to grow the tender vegetables in here. Things like courgettes, which I've been starting off in these cell trays, and squashes. These have made really lovely plants, perfect for planting them out now. I've got dwarf French beans, and I've also got some sweet corn, and I've done a bit of an experiment this year. I've grown in a peat-free compost, but I've also tried some as a comparison in a multi-purpose, the standard multi-purpose. But of course we've got to get used to the fact that peat will go in a few years time, so we need to adapt to growing in peat-free. Very often, as you can see here, in the peat-free compost, the plants are slightly smaller and they look a little bit starved. So if you are growing them this way, don't worry, it just means they're going to need a little bit more feed to get them established. And of course, once they get in the garden, they'll be perfectly okay. So don't let that put you off using a peat-free compost. So what I'm going to put in here are the sweet corn plants. We don't normally grow these the traditional way in rows, we plant them in blocks. So what I'm going to do is just plant a grid of them here, and we're going to plant them out at about 15-18 inches apart. So I'm just going to mark my spots there just to give me an idea. I'm not doing this that accurately, and what I'm going to do is just pop them out, and you can see they've got a lovely root system on them. And what I'm going to do with them is just plant them into the soil, and you can see already there's quite a lot of moisture down there. They will love this sunny position and they will grow away very, very quickly. So what I would do is first of all plant my first row like that, and then because they're going to be in a grid system, it's really simple to do. Just scrape some lines across and make a grid like that. In fact, let's plant one of these in the peat-free. Got equally as good root system, so they're going to grow away really well. And the reason we do this is because sweet corn is wind pollinated rather than insect pollinated. So by planting them in a grid system like this, the pollen that falls off the male flowers will just circulate between the plants and pollinate the plant next to it, and we should get some wonderful corn on the cob later in the season. The other thing I'm going to plant out over there are tomatoes against the wall. The other things I'm planting at the moment are these outdoor tomatoes. These are bred for being outdoors, and although they won't get as big and produce probably as large a crop as those inside a greenhouse or polytunnel, they will produce some super fruits, and they're just so tasty. When they're grown against a wall and it's warm and sunny, they ripen and develop these wonderful flavours. This is a variety called Furline that's got a good resistance to blight, which can be a problem with outdoor tomatoes. So this is one that hopefully won't get it. And I'm also growing some Roma, which is a lovely juicy plum tomato, great for pasta sauces. So if you're going to grow them, there's still plenty of time to get the plants and get them out into the garden. I'm going to grow them directly into the soil, but of course you can grow them in grow bags or containers as well. And this is a lovely strong plant that we've got here, perfect stage for planting out. So you just need to dig out a hole big enough for the pot, like that. Knock it out, and there we can see it's got a really lovely root system. So position that in close to the cane and then give it a firm like that. So I'm just going to plant these along here like this, and these will soon settle in, and they'll start to make some good strong growth. And as they grow, I'm going to tie them just to the cane for a little bit of support so that they don't blow around. And of course, in a week or two's time, as they develop, we'll need to remove the side shoots. Little tip is, if you're growing them outside, just to get the water down to the roots, dig a hole next to the tomato plant, and then I'm going to bury the plant pot in there, so the rim is just above the surface like that. And then when you do water or feed, you can water into there so that the water is going to go straight down to the roots where it's needed. So good tip there for keeping your tomato plants watered. So what I'm going to do now is just to go round onto the back garden just to finish off and just show you how to thin root crops. Well, all the root crops that were sown directly into the soil have done very well, and they've germinated and we've got a good take with them. So we've got the beetroot here, 2 types, we've got parsnips, and then under the frame here we've got the carrots to keep off those pesky carrot root flies. We need to do a bit of thinning, they've all got to have enough room to grow. Now the parsnips, I sowed them at intervals of a few inches, but I sowed them in pairs. So if we look closely we can see down here both these seeds have germinated. If we leave them in, there's not room for them both to grow, so that is the strongest one there. I'm going to pull out the weakest one like that. And this little tool here is great just for taking out any little weeds in between. We don't want any competition, we want all the energy to go into them. And again there we've got 2 strong seedlings, so the weak one is just pulled out. And again with that, so we're just doing them to a single seedling, and that gives them all enough room, as you can see around there, to make a good root. With the beetroot here, these are usually in clusters, so again it's just a case of going along and just thinning them out, so we've got single plants like that every 2 or 3 inches, so they're going to have room to grow and make a good sized bulb that we can harvest later in the summer and all the way through the winter. So it's a really therapeutic job to do, and then just again get rid of any little weeds in there like that, just to smarten them up. And what I like to do when I finish thinning the whole of the row, I've tried to do minimal disturbance, but it's a good idea just to give them a drink of water, just let some water trickle around the base, so that will soak right down to the roots where it needs. It just settles them in if you've disturbed them a little bit, and that will help them to grow, and you'll get some wonderful roots. And of course it's exactly the same with the carrots. We'll take off the carrot frame so that the flies can't get in. Thin them quickly, water them, and get that back on straight away for protection, and then we just sit and wait until they're ready to harvest. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and thank you for telling all your friends about us. Please share it. Let's get as many people gardening, especially growing vegetables, as we can. We'll be back next week with more to do in the garden, so we'll see you then. Bye.